And this webinar, in this webinar, we have three EU projects presented here. And so all of these projects enhance equality and security in our shared digital environment. So the Sifis-Home project is financed by Horizon 2020 Research and Innovation program, and it will be finished by the end of this month. And it aims to produce tools to protect smart homes. Simple say like this. And here you can see the logos of the participants, and the leader is CNR in Italy. And I couldn't write down all those countries because, as you can see, there's a lot of international companies here. So, and then there's issues. There's Finland and Sweden participated, and it is financed by Interreg Aurora and Lapin-liitto, and it's it is increasing resilience of SMEs, let's say like this. And then Distance Lab Interreg Baltic Sea region financed, and there's countries presented all around the Baltic Sea region, and all of them are universities, municipalities, and regional development companies.
Okay. So unfortunately, our keynote speaker, Miapetra Kumpula-Natri, was unable to attend today, and this is due to some unforeseen circumstances. But luckily, we have Johannes Mikkonen, who will join us instead. Johannes works closely with Miapetra, and he will speak about how EU builds digital trust. And after Johannes' speech, we will have a panel discussion. And since there are quite a lot of us here today, I would ask you to kindly keep your microphone muted. And also, if you have any questions, please write them in the chat. But before we start, we want to say a few words about today's topic, the digital environment. And while cybersecurity is dedicated to safeguarding the security of society as a critical whole, digitalization, on the other hand, pertains to the safety of individuals in our interconnected world. So digitalization is an integral part of our modern society and affects the daily routine of individuals, both in their professional lives as well as in their private lives. And here I have some facts about our digital lives. So at the moment, most European households have internet access, and this is an ever-growing number. In 2020, there were 2.5 billion IoT connections in Europe. And the forecast for 2025 expects an increase of over 70%. And IoT stands for the Internet of Things. So in this number, all refrigerators, vacuum cleaners, surveillance cameras, and similar devices connected to the internet are included. And then we have about 307 million people in Europe use Facebook on a daily basis. And 30% of workers regularly worked from home last year. So this is our reality these days. We are more and more digitalized, and a large part of our everyday lives we spend on the internet. And our personal information is also spread all over the internet. Things like our email addresses, credit card numbers, health information, and the list goes on. So this digital environment, it is a part of our lives, and this is whether we want it or not. So we can see it as both a challenge and an opportunity. And I will end here, but Laura, I think you had something to add. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I have been working on many projects promoting digitalization, and we have never really questioned its importance. Digitalization is simply something that is happening, and we need to adapt to it and mitigate its negative effects, for example, by strengthening cybersecurity. So, what is our problem now? Why was organizing this webinar so important to me, also personally? Even our main speaker canceled at the very last minute. Thanks for Johannes to coming instead. But the digital environment is both a threat and an opportunity. And like the president of EU, Ursula von der Leyen, said this morning in her State of the Union speech, internet was developed to share information and to connect people. But now, serious cybersecurity threats has been raised. Take remote work, for example. So what we need to be able to work remotely, we need a proper digital environment. But in addition to that, we need trust in order to feel comfortable sharing our information. And sharing our information is crucial for coming up with new innovations. And in order for us to dare to jump into something new, we need trust. And building trust requires solid layers of cybersecurity. Besides devices and good connections, we also need motivation and the right attitude. If we don't have the courage to use digital applications, or we are lack of motivation to learn how to use new devices, we don't even need internet. To increase digitalization could also be seen as a threat to social interaction. Or is it? Perhaps we just need few forms of new communications. We have access to the whole world and excellent opportunities for international cooperation, as evidenced by the 3 different projects in this webinar today. So if the digital environment were safe and reliable, we could make use of it in both work and leisure. We could be more efficient and innovate and more creative. And it would be even better if we could develop this together on a European scale. So that digitalization could enhance well-being and equality. So, Johannes, are you ready?
Yes, I am ready. Can you hear me? That's the first question.
Yes,
Yes.
I can hear
Okay,
you.
super. Hey, thank you very much. Thanks a lot for invitation and flexibility for the arranging of this this webinar, which is you described very well how important this is and how relevant, and that as well as this project. And very much actually aligned with generally with the European Union digital decade strategy, which I will talk briefly. So as many of you know, and as Laura refers, there was the State of the Union speech from the Ursula von der Leyen, President of the Commission, this morning. And actually, that was the reason that there was like very urgent and last minute changes in the schedules of the voting. And as you know, the voting is quite important task for the elected members of the European Parliament to do. So that's why we received the information yesterday that Miapetra is not able to join this webinar, which she was very sorry for. But yeah. So Miapetra is known on her work with digital and data issues, especially here in the Parliament. She has been she was reporter in the Data Act and has been like contributing to the European Union data strategy, which includes also several cyber security packages as well. I've been joining her team as an advisor on data and digital issues quite recently, and I haven't been working with this, especially these cybersecurity issues. I will have a couple of the things like kind of like examples of the legislation that has been planned or implemented during this parliamentary term, but the details about those are like I don't know. But then I will talk more about the, as Laura said, kind of like the enhancing trust, which is of course very core at the when we are building digital societies, and a very core at the European Union's digital strategy. I had a couple of slides, but I'm not sure if I'm able to share those. Not. Maybe I can just speak without or start speaking, and then Laura, I send those to your email. So if meanwhile you are, oh no, I'm present there. Yes, okay. Let me check. Sorry. Yes. Yes. Now maybe you can see.
Yes.
So yes. Okay. Super. Yeah. So first of all, this is also probably familiar thing to you, but the kind of digital policies have been very much focused on this current the Commission and in this parliamentary term, which is very a new thing. So I think that when Commission started to work, they have been realizing, and there has been like understanding that we need to be proactive in politics in order to ensure that the digitalization, like the democratic institutions, can shape and have an impact on the direction of the technological development and digital societies. And of course, there was there is the tension between the different regions in the world, how the technological innovations have been mainly coming from the USA, and the devices and hard infrastructure from China, and how those regions models of digitalization is something different than Europe wants. Instead of corporate led model of USA, or the authoritarian state led model of digitalization in China, Europe has realized that they have to create their own model, own strategy, own policies in order to also to enhance and boost the innovation and security competitiveness of the European EU's economy, as well as then the kind of like make sure that it is done based on the values the European Union is committed to regarding fundamental and human rights. And how that kind of willingness has realized, of course, in the EU institutions, there has been like lots of regulation, lots of different kinds of act. There has been Data Act, Data Governance, Digital Services Act, Digital Markets Act, AI Act is currently under the trilogue negotiations. So between the Parliament, Commission, and Council, they are negotiating the details of it. It will probably the agreement will come by late this autumn. But let's see, and it will shape very much have an impact on the companies who are developing and offering AI-based solutions, as well as then us as a consumer as well. But lots of different regulation, legislation, quite complicated, quite ambitious, quite messy for probably for the many of the organizations, companies, and individuals. which those regulation has been criticized for. But I think like the core of this is the very ambitious political will, trying to kind of like tackle the power of the US based digital platforms and take and enhance the democratic institutions' capabilities to ensure that they have capabilities to have an impact and direct the technological development. With different kinds of instruments like the Digital Services Act includes very rough obligations for the very big gatekeepers company of our digital life, and then kind of like if they will be successful, that will have a quite huge impact on the platforms power and enable us change the platforms and bring our data within us between the platforms very easily. And of course, then there has been like lots of funny funding and money to put to enhance and boost these aims, and the Commission has been and is still trying to would like to get more funding for these programs than the member states are willing to share their taxpayers' money. So there's of course this money negotiation all the time going on, and the some of these projects to organize this webinar have been also like funded of these instruments. And then the couple of words about the data strategy, especially which was created 2019 and included several of these regulations that were mentioned in the previous slide. And the aim of this data strategy and the regulation was to enhance and improve and boost the data sharing and transfers and flows between the domains and sectors and organizations and different entities, which is of course very crucial for innovations, as Laura said, for enabling creating new combinatory innovations and the boost businesses and also kind of like utilize the data for different societal purposes as well. So basically the somebody has been describing now the situation with this data strategy is that EU has tried to build a tree that enables SMEs and different companies to pick up the fruits that now they should do which means like data to boost their and to develop their business models and so on. And of course, there's this it's very normative and value-based strategy aiming for fairness also in the company levels, that the small companies would be more capable and enabling them to join the different value chains and data markets, and then also like fair to the humans, protecting our rights and freedoms, the kind of ensuring that we know how our data is collected and what kind of purposes it is used, and in that regard, enhancing transparency and enhancing this data sharing between different sectors. There has been like quite a long development of kind of like opening public data, for example, also from the European Union Open Public Data Directive has been in force, and that has led to many new kinds of innovation when the transportation mobility companies create new kinds of things based on the transportation data the city gives them and those kind of things. But also the core of this strategy and then this regulation is also to enable, which is very difficult also, but enable then to government to use companies and private data. So there's an example from during the COVID pandemic how the US government tried to get access to the Apple's and Microsoft data in order to tackle the pandemic, but they refused it. So that kinds of things that the strategy aim to boost voluntarily until so far. And of course, I think Laura described and then Lena at the beginning the importance of these digital issues in our everyday life, and there's like behind behind this strategy is the understanding of the quite huge increase of the significant and the volume of data economy and generate the data in the world. But then from the data, I will go to the more to the cybersecurity issues. Like we understand and that none of these goals of this regulation and these strategies will happen if it doesn't, like if we don't take care of the security issues. That's of course very obvious. And Ursula von der Leyen, she talked about that in the morning about the promises that the Commission has kind of like kept, but if we are not able to take care that our digital infrastructure is secure and safe to use, none of these promises or the aims and the goals of the European Union digital strategy is not going to happen. There is the picture from the Vastaamo case, which is the I don't know, many of you may know, but it is a 2 years back there was a very huge data breach in the company offering the psychotherapist services, and basically the customers very sensitive therapy data was stolen and spread into the dark side of the internet. And that's something I think like describes very well the nature of these kind of cyber crimes and cyber attacks, contrary to the traditional the kind of like the crime. Like basically you are going to the therapist, and then you can like do anything to avoid the situation where what you have been talking is spreading into the internet. Another example was that there was the old couple 1 year ago in television talking about how their savings were stolen from their bank account when they had signed up for the public health care like database in internet with utilizing their bank identification access, and that had been like fake websites, looked like a very much that this public health database, but it was fake, and then the criminals got their bank identification details and took their savings, and they didn't get any support any from anywhere, because it was kind of like their own fault that they were not careful enough. They went to the wrong websites. And also in this Vastaamo case, there's no like any kind of like structures or any collective or societal structures to kind of like help these people, but they are like kind of like left with very individualistic approach as an individuals to answer, to address within the traditional justice system to these kinds of threats and the crimes. And there was actually in this regarding this old couple in TV, there was like the cybersecurity expert saying in the television that like people need to be careful when you're on the internet. You should lock as way as you lock your door. And then I'm just like asking from us generally, like kind of okay, like if you lock your door, if you don't lock your door, it's kind of like quite clear that you don't get any money back from the insurance if somebody comes and steal your stuff, or you leave your water tap open or something like that. But then if you kind of like think you are locking your door, but actually you are locking your neighbor's door, or you're locking your fake door, and there's like it gives so much responsibility in the digital world for individuals to kind of like carry the individual's responsibility and take care of this kind of issue. So that's why we need pretty strong policies, pretty strong public interventions, and different kinds of solutions to support and help us to utilize digital infrastructure securely and safely, and that shouldn't be left for the kind of like too much for the individual's responsibility. And yes, in addition to those very kind of like human vulnerabilities and risks that the cyber crime, for example, causes, it also causes a lot of economic damages. 5.5 trillion euros is estimated for the global annual cost of cybercrime, and it is affected to many different kinds of sectors, from the public administrations to the health and the different kinds of services. And as Laura described in the beginning, the more we are spending our time and consuming and doing our activities in each world, the more it is likely that we are we like end up becoming the victims of any of these kinds of cybersecurity threats. And that's why of course the part of this digital decade strategy of the European Union, they have been like also trying to tackle these issues, but it's quite difficult. It's quite complicated. If you talk about the cybersecurity policy, I've been actually thinking it's a bit boring. It's a bit technical issues, and my background is not in technology. I've been like researching and following the consultating last 10 years regarding the societal impact of emerging technology, but like about the like technological details, I don't know so much. And I've been thinking like cybersecurity is a bit kind of like in a way technical boring issues until you think about like how kind of like strategic political issue it is, how it is kind of like very much kind of like cross-cutting different topics and domains when in the digital infrastructure generally. For example, in the individual level, the EU cybersecurity, the strategy identifies kind of like the risks, like how we could gain control over personal devices using malware, how we could be victims of like somebody could steal or compromise our data and intellectual property to commit online fraud, how the internet and social media platforms could be used to distribute illegal content, and how the darknet could be used to sell these illegal goods and hack the services. And also the how there's like issues within these policies, how we could protect our children from the sexual harassment, how we could tackle the misinformation, the political disinformation, and those kind of issues in the online world. And then also more in the political level, the EU has been trying to identify those ways to do the cyber diplomacy, how we could collaborate, interact internationally, globally to tackle these issues, what kinds of instrument we need to create the sanctions on cyber crimes and cyber criminals. There has been now the cases where it has been possible to kind of like conduct economic sanctions on the people who have been committed cyber crimes. And then also there's lots of talk about cyber defense, or lots of like attempt to enhance cyber defense policies, how the Europe could better coordinate between the member state the different kinds of like defending the cyber attacks. That has been, of course, now very topical issue after the Russia's war in Ukraine. And then also there's efforts of funding and skills. EU has the current commission committed for to 49 million euros to boost innovation in cybersecurity systems, and also in the Digital Europe program. It's a 6 years program currently going on, and the EU has committed to invest 1.6 billion euros into cybersecurity capacity. And of course, it's also about the skills, and there is. I think it's still under some kind of EU process, but there has been like informal agreement a couple of years ago to set up the European cybersecurity industrial blah 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 the competence center that would coordinate between the member state all kinds of cybersecurity activities. So complex issues that are EU is again ambitiously trying to solve, and again the kind of tool has been to create different kinds of legislation and regulation. There is list of the legislation of the cybersecurity strategy. It may not make sense to go through of those. Maybe instead say a couple of the examples. So first of all, there is like the cybersecurity attack, which is kind of the trying to set up the minimum standards of the services and products regarding the cybersecurity issues. Then there is the resilience of critical entities directive, which have defined what are those critical entities in the societies that should be especially protected from the cyber attack. And then for example the cyber solidarity act that's especially focusing on how the EU could like internally coordinate better and how to kind of like identify and detect the risks and threats of cybersecurity. So again, lots of new kinds of regulation, and same way than in data strategy and in data regulation. We are very much going to the implementation phase of these, and the actual impact and how much and what is are these sufficient to enhance to ensure this secure environment what we discussed at the beginning is something that's still to be seen. But maybe as a last point of my speech, I went through the different data strategy legislation and what kinds of aims there is, and then especially regarding the cybersecurity things that's included in this digital strategy. But then maybe I'll go through now a couple of the things, like generally what is now what are like people discussing now in the EU institutions. What are kind of like hot topics in the parliament during this, let's say during this autumn now after the summer holiday, when the MEPs have and then their advisors have come to the house, and what they are talking about in the field of data and digitalization, of course. And this is of course very kind of like a personal perspective. I just collected from my mind the things that now are under the discussion, but these are kind of like mic readings from the EU institution. But because I'm working in the committee of the industry and technology and research that mostly deals with these digital issues. So there it should cover the kind of most important things. But anyway, as said, now the very much like interest, or actually should be, in the enforcement and the implementation and evaluation of the current data and digital policies. So there is not any big legislation coming anymore, except the AI Act is there finalizing it and those kind of issues. But basically all the big legislation processes have been like finalized, and now there is like Commission, and this is kind of like trying to create those implementation support and then think how these could be done in different the member states. And that's very crucial moment, because the EU is good at creating laws and regulation, as generally as the politicians or the decision makers or civil servants are. But then the implementation level is something a bit we may tend to think it's a bit boring, and it's kind of like goes to the very local level, and it's complicated and messy. Okay, like in which kind of organization take responsibility of which kinds of tasks. And there is a very clear risk that, for example, we have a very ambitious data act or any kind of act, and then in a certain member states, that's in the responsibility of the one civil servant in the Ministry of Economic Affairs, whose table has lots of other things, and that may very much like hamper the impact of these legislations. So that's why that's kind of like the thing that the Commission is hopefully put focus on, and kind of like identifying those ways to support implementation. And of course then they evaluate create a feedback loop of those legislation, like okay, like what if we start implementing the Data Service Act, and the big platforms are refusing to collaborate to give their access to their people to their messages, or take their messages to the different platforms, so those kind of things. What happens then? And then there's of course like there's lots of talk about like regarding this legislation Brussels effect. The Brussels is known for the good legislation, and now we have seen, or for example in GDPR, how the California is adopting very much same kind of regulation, as well as other parts of the world. How they kind of like often those criticized regulation, then they kind of like when they are implemented and tested here, the other region and states may copy good things of them, and that's something that the EU institutions, like people want here to promote and enhance. Okay, like we need to bring these learnings of our regulation on data and digital to the states and to the other parts of the world. And there's also like, I would say, some kinds of willingness also from for example, from the USA to learn of these. Then something now very kind of like interesting legislation going on regarding strategic technology platform for Europe, meaning like kind of like that aiming to fund strategic technology development in the Europe, create a kind of like new public fund for the technological development, and also like critical raw materials, aiming to enhance European or Europe's sovereignty in the critical raw materials for the digitalization, that we wouldn't be so much dependent on the China's subsidy market and those kind of things. Within this kind of action, that the EU tried to increase strategic autonomy in the Europe and decrease dependency, for example, from China. This became the when after the war in Ukraine, how the EU realized how they had been dependent on the very critically the Russian gas, and now if we want to enhance digital transformation, Europe tried to do it more kind of like independently. And then there's lots of discussion like how this is related to technology neutrality. Who should decide what kinds of technology we should invest and which we shouldn't? Are the public officials, do they know about like how we should ensure that if we invest money, it is impactful, it leads to the it is used well, and those kind of things. And also still kind of going on this large discussion about how we can get democratic control of technology development and data. Are these current legislation enough? How we could implement those? What kind of like how what will be the responses and effect of the for example the global platforms of these and those kind of things. Then development of data spaces. That's very much still on the agenda of the current commission. To create European-wide data spaces in different domains such as health, public infrastructure services, and transportation, and those kind of things, within the to create an infrastructure and to share data freely between different organizations, and that could trust each other, and then that could boost the innovation and the economic action in a certain domain. And then the virtual world proposal also very much related to the this issue, which just has been like only communicated from the commission, so there's not it's very initial process. But are these data and digital policies enough to regulate the metaverse, or do we need new kinds of things to take account in that as well? For some reason, I don't know why Commission talks about virtual world instead of metaverse. And then there has been like also lots of like there has been like discussion that the current we need also new kinds of acts and proposal regarding target advertisement, tackle the hate speech and misinformation and those kinds of issues that happens inside the social media platforms, that if the Data Service Act and Markets Act have tried to kind of like diminish the power of those companies, but then kind of like ensuring the content inside of those is something that the next commission should be focused on. So those kind of things are discussed in Brussels. Hope it made sense for you. And then if there's any questions or comment, I have still a few minutes time to answer of those if the program allows it. But thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Johannes. Do we have any questions for Johannes? No? Oh, yes, we have Henrik. Please go ahead.
Hello, good morning or good afternoon. My name is Henrik Sancho. I am coming from Portugal, University of Minho, and I'm working with the FISHI project, which is one of the European projects aiming the cybersecurity field. And my question is related with standards. From your speech, I noticed that you have not referred any of the framework of standards that have been around for more than 20 years. This is not properly a new area. Cybersecurity is around for a long time. And standards has been pointed as one of the main support for the cybersecurity field. How do you manage, or how do you think we can integrate these frameworks with cybersecurity initiatives?
Thank you. So just to clarify the question, so you mean like kind of like existing or kind of like the standardization that has been there already a long time, and then I think the kind of like how to align those within these new kinds of or legislations or the acts or something. The regarding the cybersecurity acts, I'm not fully aware of the details of those and what kinds of like the standardization they either are based on or the develop or they utilize in different data acts. That's of course very core issue with the standardization has been kind of like there has been like created new standardization to enhance the interoperability of different services, which has required new kinds of standardization that has and also the new kinds of that standardization, and then also in the data spaces they are actually currently, or the different spaces are in a different the phase, but they are within the expert group collecting different kind of standardization mechanisms, different ways to standardize the data, and then kind of based on those create the standardization for either of the data spaces. Then regarding the cybersecurity standardization, that's the something that I'm not fully aware of. But
Okay, I think we have one more question. Ali, you have.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Yeah, so my name is Ali. I'm from Central University, Kokkola, Finland. I have a question regarding the regulation of data sharing between organizations in Europe. Is it just because of some security aspects, or is it because European organizations are afraid to lose the grip on the data sharings between organizations?
thank you. So again, clarifying question. So do you refer to the like data spaces or generally like how the like how data is shared within the organization, or could you clarify?
Just the sharing between organizations, because for me, I look at like due to these new technologies that are always evolving and new spaces that regarding the technologies and everything, like maybe some European countries or organizations are afraid to lose control over this data sharing, because now everything is just digitalized and there is no more grip on this data sharing. So is it just for security problems or more of a political problem?
I think it's both way. It's very kind of like the of course depend on the organization we talk about the companies, but it's very of course like maybe very kind of like how to say it, sensitive issues in a way to even though there would be kind of like the infrastructure or the standards and interoperable services to share data, but the kind of if the trust is not very clear and the procedures are not very clear, maybe it's very also like kind of like a politically sensitive issues. And that's why the actually within the Data Act, the Commission is kind of like the identifying the kind of like intermediate data sharing organizations that then can kind of could label themselves that they are like data intermediate, and then their data is shared and used for different purposes, as well as it includes then the data altruistic organizations, which are now currently they are trying to identify those organizations that are able to share their data without any reward for the public good. And they aim to identify a certain amount of those organizations, and then they get a certain label, and then the processes to share their data for the public purposes. Then about the kind of like there are of course like many obstacles and hindrances of the data sharing. But of course, it's often about it's very often the question of like business question. The SMEs and startups, I've heard, like small companies were quite satisfied with, for example, with this data legislation, but then there like the several big companies were very critical towards it because the kind of like seeing that it may hinder their business opportunities.
Okay, are there any more questions? I can't see anyone putting up their hand, so but
Yeah, let's move on.
yes.
Johannes, if you can, so could you stay online with us and comment the panel discussion?
At some point, I can stay for a moment, but not very long actually, because then the plenary asked my attention.
Okay. Could we, if we continue with the project? So, Andrea, would you present the Sifis-Home first, and then we go on to the discussion when all of you have presented the project, like the main points, what we are doing.
Yes. Hi, Laura. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
So thank you for organizing this great event. My name is Andrea Saracino. I am a researcher in the National Research Council of Italy, and I am the coordinator of the Sifis-Home project. I will try to introduce this very briefly, not to steal time to the other projects and also to the panel discussion that we will have, that we are going to have later. But let's say what Sifis-Home is trying to address. So Sifis-Home is a project that is asking a question, and the question that is posing is, are smart home devices considered as critical devices for what concerns cybersecurity? And the answer that we found and that the European Commission agreed on was that, yes, they are extremely critical, as when we're looking at the smart home environment, we are not only dealing with standard cybersecurity issues related to privacy and integrity of data, but we are also directly interacting with physical devices, so devices that might have a direct effect on people's health even, and property integrity. Considering how the smart devices are evolving in the last years and how they are entering more and more inside of our houses, what happens is that we are starting to see not only the smart speaker that we can talk to and we receive answers, but we also are able to have devices that can be controlled remotely, like the oven and even the sink. We are talking of having a smart sink, so a device where you can control with two different commands, which for those of you that works in computer science, translating APIs, that controls the flux of the water, and you also control if the drain is closed or open. Anybody can see a problem that you might find when you close the drain and you keep the sink open. So what Sifis-Home is trying to do is presenting a framework for smart home security that aims, first of all, at defining a standard for the definition of third-party applications. So those applications that are designed to work inside the smart home environment in a way that before being installed, actually they inform the user of the house what can be the risks related to privacy, security, and safety that a misuse of this application can cause. So if a misuse of the application can cause a flooding in your house, this is something that the user must be informed about. On the other hand, it allows user to define policies, again for security, privacy, and safety, that can be matched with the specification that we have for the application. So if the user says, I don't want in my house devices or applications that can set up a fire, and on the other hand, you have the application that is showing to have this risk, then this application cannot be deployed inside your smart home system. On the other hand, and here we go to the second building block of the project, we have an architecture that is resilient, being fully distributed, so without the problem of the single point of failure, that ensures that all the functionalities of the houses are accessible at all times. It's not dependent on internet connection. So this means that if the connection fails, the house is still able to work correctly. Missing the single point of failure means we have inside the house more than one device, generally 3 or 4, that are managing all the intelligence of the system. And if one of these devices is not working anymore, the other devices rearrange themselves for the functionalities and allow all the functionality of the house to work correctly. Other features that are managed inside the smart home are what we call the continuous access control or usage control, meaning that we are also able to define policies on the run that can define either preferences of the user or, again, security and safety policies. Deciding, for example, who are the users that can access to specific functionalities. If we want to block the access to some appliances to children, this is something that can be done programmatically inside the Sifis-Home environment. For what concerns the result of the project, as Laura said, we are getting very close to the final steps. What we had very exciting results that includes a pretty large number of publications in top conferences and journals. These activities fostered a lot publication related to privacy preserving data analysis, especially, and distributed secure architecture. But we also start to see some commercial exploitation, because out of the activities that we did in this project, not taking it as a whole, but taking some of the initial result, we also see some startups and spin-off that came out of this project, believing on the values of safety and security that we have inside the Sifis-Home project. I think that's all. I hope I didn't go over the time allocated to me.
It's fine. Shall we take the next project?
Johan, go ahead. Johan and issues.
Yes, thank you very much. So I'm representing the Issues project. It's an Interreg Aurora project. Issues stands for Information Security and Digital Service for Sustainable Design. And what we mean with that is that we try to support SMEs to create larger capacity to internationalize their businesses, and also to design new information secure digital services. And to do that, we need to support them in understanding the different threats and the threat landscapes that they are facing. We also need to support them with the better innovation processes to develop these online services. So we have a mix of different competences in the project. So it's from Centra, we have the more technical expertise and have this Secu lab, for instance, and at LTU in Sweden, we have a more organizational and social technical perspective on cybersecurity. So therefore, we complement each other very well. We try to do a lot of cross-border collaboration and engage with this SME company to understand their challenges and support them in the journey of being more digital. And when we're talking about these aspects, we see that many of the traditional manufacturing companies that are coming from like the basic industries, they are facing a lot of challenges in relation to cybersecurity. And we need to see that everyone contribute and support this change and understand that no matter what company or organization you are working in, this is something that we need to consider for the future. So we are developing different support methods and tools, and we are collaborating and being like sounding board for an organization when they're trying to implement new standards or new technical solutions, for instance. And we're trying to be a platform where the different actors can meet and discuss cybersecurity. And if we're talking about these Interreg programs, they very much emphasize on the cross-border collaboration. And we say that this cross-border is not only the physical border. Now when we are in a digital environment, we see that we can do a lot of more collaboration outside our program area as well. So our result and dissemination activities very much contributed to other areas as well, and see that similar environments in other parts of EU where there are more sparsely populated areas can benefit from what we are doing. So we try to be very active on the arena and present what we are doing in that sense in relation to other EU programs and initiatives. And therefore, I think this is a good webinar to highlight the importance of this question, and that we also try to question ourselves why we're doing this and how it contributes to being a more smarter EU in terms of understanding the challenges and the needs for the future. So, yeah, that was a bit about our project. Thank you.
Thank you, Johan. And then we have Lena and Distance Lab. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Honored to be here. Thank you for inviting, and great to meet the other panelists, and the keynote speaker was also great. I'm Leena Toivonen. I work in Centria University of Applied Sciences, and I'm an R&D coordinator. I work as a project manager in many projects that are regarding digitalization in some way or another, but my background is in business, and I mainly work in projects that are aimed towards the micro companies and small to medium-sized companies or other underrepresented groups, unemployed, immigrants, this kind of projects. And the project that I am representing today is Distance Lab, which is funded by the Interreg Baltic Sea region, and we are working together with 6 countries to improve the remote work opportunities. And actually in Distance Lab we look at the remoteness not only as remote work, so what we are probably all doing already, that we are doing the Teams meeting and we are doing the work that we've been doing before, but we do it online. We don't want to limit it to that, but our focus is actually on the changed business environment that the remote work has brought with it. So how can small companies utilize the opportunities that this new remote time has presented for them? We are going to do it by developing business support services. So we will have about 10 different services that we will produce, and they are regarding 3 different main topics. And first of them is communication and innovation. During the last few years, innovation has actually been recognized as one of the topics that really struggled during the time that everyone was remote. Obviously, now we are not all remote anymore. We can get back on our feet with the innovation, but like I said, the whole environment has changed and it will not change back. So we are developing the services where the business can change their innovation processes and communication processes to work well in both remote and hybrid work. And also, when I'm talking about remote work and communication, I don't only mean communication with your colleagues, but also communication with your customers and your potential customers, especially. I think the great thing about being remote is that we don't anymore need a passport to go across the border. We can do it virtually and without as many resources as were demanded before. Also what Johan was saying, that there is these different borders, not only the country borders. The other topic where we are developing services is sustainability. Obviously, business cannot really develop anymore without being sustainable. And the third topic that we are developing services for is the remote business strategy. So how do we strategically prepare for the coming years when we know that we don't know what will happen in those years? We have a lot of services that are business forward, and obviously supporting businesses is our main objective. But why I am here and why this is a digitalization project as well is that when you work remotely, when you work cross-border and you are reaching out to these new target groups and new customers, you kind of have to be digital to be able to do it. So we want to help both those companies that haven't done it yet much, but also the ones that are excited and are maybe innovating in the field as well. So we hope to get like both views. We also work with universities and public authorities and obviously business development organizations. We will also create an online and local innovation hub where we will share these services so that they will be available for everyone to use, obviously, but also it will be a place for both companies and business support organizations to meet together, share their own services. Obviously, we are not the only ones doing this, and we want to bring the remote business environment into like our everyday vocabulary, let's say. So that will be also part of the project. We have started in the beginning of this year, so we are only in the beginning. We are now preparing the services or pilots, as they are called. Next year, they will be tested with Baltic or European partners. Anyone is able to join. So if this sounds exciting, you can contact me and we can talk more. And in the last year, we will develop so last year will be 2025, we will develop the hub. And by that time, all of the services will be ready and we focus on the networking. Thank you.
Okay. What if we do like this, that I have some specific questions to our panelists, and then we continue with the general discussion. Andrea, are you there? Would you like to provide some like examples of cybersecurity risks related to smart homes? Some concrete.
Yes, sure. So, what concerns cybersecurity risk that you have inside the smart home? You first of all have to think that what is the home environment for a person? The home is the place where actually the most private activities of the user are happening. And as we are inserting more and more devices in our house with the goal of providing services to us, think of a very simple smart speaker or what can be a security camera that you might have in your home. But even if you have a smart TV with a camera, you are basically inserting eyes and ears inside your home that are listening and watching what is happening. These kind of information are, of course, extremely private and can be used against the tenant of the house. So the same person that bought those devices in order to have a service, or simply to provide an unfair advantage to companies that generally are the service providers. There are many cases that we could see in the last years of companies, even pretty big companies, that did very strong misuse of the data that they were collecting. And this is extremely easy, since the majority of the devices that we have in our smart homes are not processing the information inside the house, but are processing the information in the cloud. So basically, data are taken from the house, sent on a cloud, and there the user completely lose control of this data. And when I'm saying this, I'm just thinking of one of the many dimensions of the cybersecurity issues. Here we are exactly talking about privacy and what privacy can imply. There was a very interesting talk before where we heard about all the various acts that and legislation that we are having in Europe and we are going to have, but it is already a number of years that we have the GDPR that regulates the data privacy, and many of the actions that are happening are in violation of the privacy. Problem is that once a specific piece of data is out of the control of the user and also out of the control of the provider, then there is no way to get back control of this data. And it's also difficult to trace back where is the responsibility, and so to find a culprit, somebody that has to pay for the mistake. Other cybersecurity issues, I was mentioning one in the presentation of the project, and this is mostly relevant to smart home, that you are not talking, when you are talking about cybersecurity, remember that you are in a cyber physical system. So integrity is not anymore related to data and behavior of application. It's also related to what you have inside your house. If one of your appliances blow up, these are money that you are spending as a user. If an application is maliciously flooding your house, you might have to pay a lot of money for your house and to pay back the damage that you do to your neighbors. So really, when we are talking about cyber physical system, the kind of risks and that we might have are just up to our imagination. If you can think of it in a bad way, you can make it happen.
Thank you. We are shocked, right? Now
that was
nobody. Yeah. Be careful before you bring any devices to your home. Lena, would you describe the challenges that the micro and small sized enterprises face when digitalizing their services? And how should they approach to transition as customers move online? And how does it impact sales and innovation effort?
Yeah, Sure. So we are talking about companies that are now digitalizing existing services. So I will not now mention the companies that are working fully digital and maybe have some great innovation coming up, but the majority of the companies have some service, some business that needs to be changed into digital. And I'm sure that here is a lot of people who work with technology and are aware of that we have plenty of digital services that we can already digitalize basically everything. Like I said, if your business can't be digitalized, you might be like on the verge of innovation because there is not much left for that. But what I see in my work, that what are the challenges in why the businesses haven't been digitalized. Often the reason is in either motivation or in the digital competence that the entrepreneur has. And we have to remember that these businesses and these entrepreneurs have a full-time job and maybe even more than that with their own field. They are the experts of their field, but they may not be experts in digitalization. Also, they may have a set customer base and traditional ways of working, and they feel that we are in the size that we need to be, and everything is going well. So there is two challenges that come up when we start to even discuss about digitalizing a service. And first of all is that the entrepreneur has to get to know the service themselves or the digital system themselves. That requires resources, time and money, and expertise sometimes. But secondly, when we are talking about customers, you have to get also the customers on board. And that could be even bigger reason of not digitalizing if you have good customer relationship already. And obviously then expertise is something. If you are lacking the expertise, you may need to buy it. If you're a small company, you may not have the resources to buy it. So that's one big thing. But what I would say to conquer this digital transformation is that, of course, get to know your customers, but also the potential customers. And again, you can look beyond the borders and not only country borders, maybe your field borders, whatever it is. And just follow along with what's going on with the digital transition. We don't have to do everything that is available. That's basically impossible, but be aware of what's coming up. This data economy change, sharing data market is one thing that will affect a lot of us. And I would say that many of us are not yet prepared for that. And lastly, what is something that we can also help through projects is to collaborate with the needs that you have. Projects often aim to support many companies or whole field at once. So there is some like expertise that you can get with quite low effort compared to, for example, buying the service for yourself.
And why we are talking about small and medium-sized companies. So there's like about 23 million small and medium-sized companies in Europe, and it's like the most of the companies are small-sized. And obviously the challenge for the small companies is also cybersecurity. Juha, would you tell a little bit about it? That what kind of cybersecurity risks the companies face when in the digital environment?
Yeah, sure. So if I relate to the previous speakers' thoughts about this, I would say that it might be easy to implement a new technical solution because you have heard about that this should be the solution for you. But if you don't really understand what it means to you, for example, about these cameras or home devices, for example, if you don't have the knowledge for how to maintain and update the software, that can actually be a bigger threat than support for you in a way. So this saying one size fits all doesn't work here. So for one company or organization, a technical solution might be a good way of supporting the different risks and threats that you're facing. And for another organization, it might be awareness activities and focusing on the sort of the cyber hygiene factors, how to have good policies and structure and processes for being more secure. And also, if you relate to SMEs and the risk, I would say that we, as researcher and different experts in the field, need to talk their language so they understand how they can face these challenges. It's easy to come to a large company with a big IT department and talk tech talk and have all the buy-in from them. But when we are talking about this small organization, you really need to make them understand what it means to them. This is not, I mean, in this small organization, it might be the CEO or one person working with IT, but we need to understand that these risks will be something that everyone is responsible for in the organization. I recently was on a conference where there was a lady talking, and they had on their mirror in the toilet, they have a title underneath that it says Information Security Officer. So everyone that look into the mirror should have that kind of feeling that, okay, I'm the one that is responsible for information security, because we have heard about this weakest link, that the people in the organization are the weakest link. So I think it's very important that we understand that we need to look on this question as organizational issues that we together should solve.
Actually, I have one more question to you, Johan. The issues, the name comes from Information Security and Digital Services for Sustainable Design. So would sustainable development and cybersecurity have some connections?
Yeah, I would say it has. I mean, for many of these small, medium-sized organizations, they won't sustain on the market if they are attacked. I mean, larger organizations, they might have a higher cyber resilience and might be able to survive an attack. But many of these small organizations, they will be bankrupt within half a year or so. So in terms of, I mean, if we can look on these aspects in terms of environmental aspects, and being more digital will maybe help them to reach out to a larger market in an easier way, and might also be able to produce more sustainable products or something like that. But we should also see it as a competence development within the area, and also economical aspects if these companies wasn't able to keep up what they're doing in the region. So yes, for sure, it's very important. And you shouldn't see the cybersecurity as a cost. It's more like an investment and a strategic thing that you should be able to sort of emphasize when you're trying to offer something. It's not like something that should be seen as something. It's a necessity to have everything in place, but it's also something that you can actually get new customers and offer new values to the customer when we are doing everything online in a digital environment.
Leena, Andrea, do you have something to say about sustainable development? It's the one of the most important thing everybody should think nowadays. So would you like to say out of your perfect perspective?
Yeah, I can say a few words. I agree that sustainability is like the backbone of everything that's going on. I know, for example, in our area where I live in Kokkola, we are expecting to have a lot of new companies and through that new staff that are all focused on green transition. So it is actually not only that we are supporting or saving the environment, but like Johan said, that it is part of sustainable business, that the business can survive within the competition. But sustainability is also a social issue and a financial issue as well. And we can see that there is these large companies that can make big investments towards sustainability, and that's great, and they are kind of pushing the development. But at the same time, we can notice that, for example, social sustainability is happening when we have accessibility through digital systems. In the beginning, there was mention about communication in digital era, and there it's often talked in a bit of a negative way that you cannot be as connected when you're digital, but actually, on top of that, of course, you can be internationally connected, but digitalization can bring accessibility that was not available before. So, for example, people with who are neurodivergent have mental or physical challenges to join the traditional workforce. They can do it through remote working, or they can find really their community online. And then we again come to cybersecurity and what Johannes said in the beginning about the Vastaamo case, where this when you share something so personal of yourself online, then you can also lose it. So there is really this individual person perspective, but then also the large company investment perspective, and we need both to make the whole culture and the nation to go forward.
Should I add something, Laura?
Would you add something?
Yeah, just a couple of words about the sustainability. I must say in a pretty happy way that companies are seeing sustainability as a natural value. Even small business are kind of seeing it as a value that gives importance to what they are doing, and somehow also attract more customers. The idea of doing things in a green and sustainable way. So I can see this is a value that we can see in many different areas. We don't have only to think about energy management, or just, let's say, those kind of business that are really involved in also waste management or things that somehow can create some kind of pollution. But you see also in the very small business that are even just related to computer science that there is always that element where, okay, let's try to do things green, and this is something that shows how we are even ahead sometime of the political classes that we have in some countries, where after COVID it seems like sustainability became a secondary value in for some government, unfortunately, and Italy is one of them, unfortunately. Anyway, I will be to complete what John was saying. I will be happy to see that also cybersecurity start to become a value in the same way of sustainability. And it is incredible how much cybersecurity and sustainability can be linked between them. Because there are starting to be studies on that, but the effect that cybersecurity or cybersecurity related issues has on sustainability or on the environment in general, it is becoming of great and greatest interest, starting from the kind of damage that can be caused to the environment by a successful cybersecurity attack. But if we also think of what is the main currency for people that trade in cybersecurity attacks, that is Bitcoin and all the cryptocurrency, they are normally not managed or produced in a way that is so much environment friendly.
Yeah, that's right. I was thinking also that could cybersecurity be like a part of the to keep the devices to keep on going longer if you get attacked, so do you have to throw away your laptop or can you still keep it or something like this? But now let's move on. So you are all of you are specialized to detect problems and to try to solve problems. So now we have cybersecurity and data security and privacy and sustainability and digitalization and like these things. So how you think that EU-funded project specifically solve problems? Like how you think when you are applying to new project, like from how you use the EU fund to solve the problems? That's my question. Who want to start?
I can go first. Yeah, I would say that even before we have a project, when we are just applying for it, obviously the projects are based on a practical need, and we have companies involved in it in some way or another. It may be that the need comes from the company to us as project organizations, or we can see that there is maybe an emerging problem and then discuss that with the companies and get together. So I would assume that all projects are based on a practical need. But then what I mentioned before, that we have these huge forerunner companies that are having huge innovation cycles within themselves, and those are super important for us. But at the same time, these challenges are in the small and medium-sized companies who may not have the resources to do it themselves or create a specific solution for only that one company, and it may not be needed. So I'd say that in these EU-funded projects, we can produce scalable solutions. So we can produce kind of more benefit to a bigger amount of companies, and it will still be research based. It will be done by experts. It has the time and money and expertise resources in the project, and then it will be like given out to the world to be used. So I would say that that's the key, that we started from a practical reason and it becomes scalable.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good point. And I also see that, I mean, the hands-on work we're doing together with different organizations is very much appreciated on different levels. And so for us, it has been many projects that we have been working with the partner from Finland and northern part of Norway as well. And we see that we don't see each other as different countries in that way. It's more like a region in the northern part of Europe where we have similar challenges and also benefits. I mean, the tourist industry is one where they collaborate a lot over the years, and And I see that we can also be better in collaborating in other aspects. And now when we're talking about digital environment and we can go digital with all our offers, I think that we have tried to use the competences from the different partners to collaborate and support companies. And I think that's one important thing with this regional funds from EU, to be more practical and hands-on with the different cases companies working on.
I totally agree on these two visions, and I believe that probably the money that are given, the EU fundings that are used for Horizon project, is one of the best usage of money that can be actually done. Now, I know that somebody can say that I am a little bit biased by this, considering I'm doing research. But if we think of this, is really the only way that you have to get fundings that you can use once you found the problems. Yes, as Lina said, it's totally correct. Everything starts from a problem. Sometimes it's the European Commission that spots the problem. Sometimes are the companies. Sometimes are the researchers that find them, and then the project is used to provide solutions that can be a different level of maturation, of course. And these kind of projects, they give you a sufficient span of time, like 3 years, in order to just investigate on that problem and test your solutions in a somehow relaxed way. Meaning that you have the time, you can use those money specifically to do that kind of research, and you don't have the kind of limitations that you normally have in a business environment where there is the customer that normally comes first. Here is really the kind of idea that has been proposed. Of course, we all know that it's extremely challenging to get these fundings, but if you get this funding, it means that European Commission believes that what you proposed makes sense, is something that can be valuable and it can generate value. And in the end, I believe that we are able to find a solutions of the problem. If we don't do this, the European Commission stops us before in the reviews. We have faced, all of us, pretty harsh review to convince everybody that we are actually providing solutions. And what comes out of this investment, I believe, is always something that has more value than the actual money that the European Commission has spent on the project itself.
Okay, and how can we empower the citizens? Now you have been talking about companies.
Start first, consider I'm always the last one. Empowering citizen can be challenging because it's not that easy to reach them with the result of research. But again, let's think of that. European money are money that comes directly from the citizens, so they are the first one that they should benefit from the result of the project. How to do this? Finding the better communication channel that you can use also to reach the general audience. European Commission in general is investing a lot, and we can see all of us that are working in research organization or universities that there are these events like researcher nights, and many other festivals dedicated to science in order to show what we are actually doing and explain it in a simple way to citizens. If I believe that if our research is valuable, is something that can easily be explained to citizens, and the way how you explain them is exactly saying to them how you can benefit from this research. So how you are empowered from our result. If you can do this, then you are an excellent researcher.
Exactly, I agree. And I would also bring up that the citizens are almost always also customers of companies. And the company will, like rudely put, the company will do what the customer wants them to do. So if a customer will, for example, demand for sustainable materials in their products, then the company will react. I'm not saying it cannot go other way around, but if we are talking about citizens. So we can also bring this knowledge and increase the competence of the whole public, also the citizens, not only companies. Another thing that comes to mind about citizens is that I think the EU funding structure actually supports us in also reaching out to, for example, unemployed people with challenges and threat of like falling out from work, or immigrants, or like different groups of people. There is also funding for that, specified for that, and I think that's important for all of us to remember, that it is available, of course, but also that it's not only technology that we develop, but if what we have done in a project, if it is successful and it goes to company, through the company, maybe through a few steps, it will reach the citizens and bring fortune to the area.
Yeah, I think one important part of this is that we can support and increase the knowledge and the skills within our regions, and give them like best practice and lessons learned. So, and also from the result, we can also find new challenges. So in that way, we can improve education and can design new, more secure services. It should be easy to do right and not, I mean, in that way. And so if we have this security by design approach and try to foster a good IT and security behavior within the group of citizens, so to say, I think it's a good way to improve everything in that way. And also from EU perspective, I think they're trying to reach out with the results from different projects by having different activities. They have like cooperation days, EU in my regions. In relation to security, the ENISA agency have had this cybersecurity month for years, so that they're trying to reach out with the results from the projects to the public as well.
Yeah, my next question was about the visibility. So how to enhance the visibility of our project, and not only project, the results of the project. Do you have something more to say?
Yeah, I would say based on our experience, I think it's good to attend all different events and activities that are available. You also find out new collaboration, new project partners, and being active and like more hands-on communicating with the customer potential partners is very important. And one thing that I learned to understand during the years is to try to communicate in their language and try to understand their challenges, and they are different depending on where they are. So, but being hands-on and practical is a good way to reach out with what you're doing.
Andrea, do you have something to add?
Well, you know, when you are taking a European project, especially this one addressing Pillar 2, you normally have very big consortia with big number of partners and also pretty big names into it. So probably in order to enhance the visibility of the result, if the partner of the project are believing enough in what they are doing, is enough for them just to perform the standard dissemination activities that are promised when doing the project in order to give a lot of visibility to what we are doing. No, this is not always easy, because when you are talking about European project, there are sometimes also issues related to IPR. But dissemination activities that are normally done in the project, if exploited correctly, I believe they can be really used to give a very great outreach. And the other thing is not only giving acknowledgement to the project when publishing research papers, that is something that we normally do, but any kind of result that comes from the project should somehow acknowledge the project, explaining how the project brought to that result. Is a logic that is still a bit difficult to be catched by, especially by some companies, but we are in a good direction. I see with my few experience that I have in the research project, I've seen some advancement from the projects where I was involved at the very beginning and the projects that I'm managing right now. And as I said, I'm pretty happy of Sifis-Home because we had real practical results also in the commercial world.
You mentioned the participants in a project. So what do you think about the significance of collaboration in this topic in creating digital security?
Well, how to say? So collaboration. I think that the collaborating and creating digital security is really the actual result of all the projects that fall under specific calls like the ones that we are doing now. Are you referring to collaboration among project partners or collaboration like external to the project? So outreaching to external partners and building communities and outreaching to other stakeholders that are not part of the consortium, what you were referring to?
I think everything. I think we are talking about EU-funded projects. So,
okay. So, in speaking of both, for the first one, I think it comes by design. That's really what you do in a research project. If you are doing a project that is now, especially thinking of the new program that is in Horizon Europe, relatively new, we're already at the third year of it. But there is a specific action that is called increased cybersecurity. So all of the projects that fall under that area are by design going toward that goal, creating collaboration in order to solve problems for increasing cybersecurity. When reaching outside, that's again a place where it's important the role of all the partners that you have in the project, especially when you have partners that are already involved in organization. They can be ITF, they can be W3C, they can be Association of Internet of Things. This being able to promote the result of the project inside this community, this is something that we have experienced directly in our project. You start to raise the cybersecurity problem also in communities that were not thinking at all about that. We saw it already 3 times just in the Sifis-Home project, that you come there and you find them saying, okay, but we didn't think up to now about cybersecurity, which is crazy at the current time. But yes, that's the reality. So when you are able to bring results related to cybersecurity exploitation inside this community, that's, I believe, a great achievement of your project.
Now I noticed that the time is running, so I have one more question to you all. So, what are our future challenges, and how should they be addressed? Shall we start with Lena?
Yeah, sure. So I'm sure that there is a lot of obvious challenges like rebuilding Ukraine, inflation, the cost of living. If we just open and look at the news, we will see a lot of future issues. But something that I would like to bring up that was also mentioned in the keynote in a way about data is actually data literacy. So the capability of read, produce, and also analyze the data that we already have, and then the one that we can still produce. And not only knowing that there is data available, but also understanding the value of it. I would say that data is one of our currencies in the future. And I can see that there is already some companies are reacting to this. Obviously, the EU regulation is something that will push the ball to run or roll even more. But there is some companies that are really reacting to this and trying to be the first ones, obviously creating the innovations and being the first ones to kind of set the tone. But I would really urge everyone, no matter what is your background, to get a little bit familiar with data and what is this data economy that is coming, and also what are the risks related to it. But I am kind of a positive person that I would rather think of it from the opportunity standpoint. So, for example, in agriculture, which is considered a quite traditional field, but obviously also now very digitalized field, that's a field that data economy will be super important. And we can all learn from our own perspective. We don't have to be the experts of data in the world, in EU. We have to be experts of how data economy affects us and our business and our field. So that's something that I really want to work on in the future, and I hope we all take that into consideration.
Johan.
Yes, I can continue. I think competence development and competences will be a challenge for the future. I mean, we see a lot of technologies that are coming up, and that development is going very fast, and I don't think that we keep up with the speed. So some of those technologies might be new vulnerabilities in our system. So we need to have the skills to evaluate what we implement in terms of technologies. So also, if you look on the EU arena where they talk about different skills needed, I think collaboration and critical thinking skills are very important, because we can use technologies to solve, programming and stuff like that, but we still need to have the competences to understand and analyze what we are implementing. How they should be addressed, I think it's a great question, but we need to have some matrix to evaluate where we are and if we are mature enough, and also have a sort of a cyber resilience approach, so that we understand where we are and where we're going and how we can protect ourselves and what we should protect ourselves against. Something like that, I would say.
And I totally agree on this as well. Actually, I see a pretty difficult situation in the immediate future because of the lack of skills and competences. And we saw in the first talk today that there are all these new acts. I took some notes about their name: Digital Governance Act, Digital Services Act, Artificial Intelligence Act, Digital Markets Act. Well, for any of these acts, there are new regulations that are all talking about the need to develop application in a specific way and to be able to certify resilience, security, robustness, ethics, whatever. We don't have the skills to do this for now. There is a real talent shortage. We are experiencing this because we are in a time where there are a lot of research fundings and it's difficult to find people willing to work on in this area. And in the next few years, really, we are going to need a huge number, tens of thousands at least, of people that are skilled into these areas, where there are not even right now the tools to teach these people, to prepare these people to face the challenges that the market will require. And in the area of university and research centers, we have a huge responsibility out of this, because we need to start preparing people that are not going there and just saying, okay, I am expert in this area, just because they start learning about this topic a couple of days ago. Is something that we are unfortunately seeing in many areas. We need real experts, because out of this topic, we have applications that affect directly people's lives, and we need skilled people. So it's up to us to show to the upcoming students why this topic are relevant, why it's important to know very well this topic and prepare them in this area that is extremely required by the market.
Okay, I think it's always, we are almost done. We used all the time, the 2 hours. So I would like to thank you. Stay safe out there. And thank you.
Thank you very much.
You.
Bye bye.
Yeah, thanks to all the participants as well. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.